To get this started, do you mind sharing a little bit about yourself? What is your professional field and what program are you currently studying?
Yeah, sure. So, I am Ananya. I'm in Phoenix, and basically, I came to the US in 2021 to Carnegie Mellon University, and I did like a master's in information systems and management. Post that, I availed 1 year of OPT, and unfortunately, the employer that I was with back then said that they're not e-verified, so they couldn't do my STEM extension, but they
Mm,
said we sort of support day one CPT. So
mm,
through Go Allied back then, I enrolled in 2024 with Trine University at
mm,
Phoenix. Now, since 2024, I've been with Trine and I was supposed to complete my program this May. But what happened was there was a slight miscommunication between my academic advisor and myself, and I couldn't attend one of their seated classes. And it was a little bit of an issue because the add and drop deadline hadn't passed by then, and they could have notified me so that I could have dropped that class and taken something else on. That way, I wouldn't have to sort of like lose my, withdrawn from the course because I didn't attend the seated class. So, unfortunately, that wasn't possible. So, there was like this whole back and forth, and they said the only way out is to transfer to a different university. So, this happened back in Jan of this year, and I was completely terrified because I just had about 1 semester left in try, and I would graduate from a master's in business administration. So I contacted Go Elite, and they said, "Hey, we have like Avila University, super close to you." And I think they had like their spring term one or spring term two starting around that time, Jan
mm.
20th or something. And they were really like helpful and supportive. And sorry, I lost my correct. Yes, they had a general intake, and I spoke to Charlotte back then. I spoke to a few academic advisors at Avila, and they were really, really helpful in guiding me through the entire admission process. I remember one of my financial documents was pending, and they gave me like 1 week extra, even though their semester had started, to say, hey, you go figure out your bank documents. So they made it really flexible. And one thing, because I've also been to Trine, I can notice a sharp contrast between these two places. People at Avila are really, really good at communication. Like,
Mm.
I don't have to go through multiple loops or tiers to reach to them. I can just give one call to the person who handles the front desk, I think. And she was really, really well versed with, which department manages what. She was very easily able to route my call to different departments. And that really made a difference because when I was at Trine and I had all these issues with the academic advisor and stuff, I had no idea who to contact, right? So that way, that's why I thought I would take out some time and talk about how good they are because I think they really do care about the student. And the process was pretty quick too. I applied, and by the end of day two or day three, I already had my admit in hand. They were really smooth with the whole transferring of credits process as well. I think I wanted to transfer whatever I owned at Trine University over to Avila, and that didn't take too long too. I think it was just about a week. And so, I've just had a really pleasant experience so far. The first residency is coming up actually the end of this week. So I'm going to
Mm.
go visit them in person. Probably I'll have more to share then.
Okay, so
Yeah.
very great contact information. So just to
Mhm,
quickly know your background situation, and
mhm.
it's very unfortunate when sometimes when situation happens like that.
Yeah.
So wanted to understand a little bit more because you mentioned the comparison between the admission to academic to all the way until CPT. You were
Yes.
saying that Avila University is very responsive and then they knows the in and out of connection of departments.
Exactly. Yep.
So would that be any specific areas when you were applying for CPT or when you were applying for your classes, or is there particular area that you think Avila did pretty well?
Yeah, I think the first thing is they are really, really customized to the person they're talking to, right? Like at Trine, they would just say, hey, email so and so person, and somebody will get back to you. Nobody was sure. But over at Avila, I had one person, I'm not sure what her name was. She was almost like a personal counselor to guide me from step to step. She called me up and said, hey, I'm going to send you these 3 emails. I want you to reply to all three of them and we'll take care. So I just felt like there was somebody along with me the entire way. It is tough to navigate, especially, because I'm transferring from a different university. I was already 1 week late, but that made it really helpful. So just having a personal contact made all the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I assume that you were on a pretty tight timeline,
Yes.
because your previous school basically were about to terminate the CVIS. So how
Yeah.
long of a time did you have to navigate?
I had 2 weeks. Trine gave me 2 weeks to transfer out to the new university. So my seated class was on Jan 10th. And they only informed me 3, 4 days later that I'd missed my
Mm,
seated class. So I already lost time then. So by Jan 15th ish, I knew that the only way out was to transfer out. And they said I have till Jan 30th to move my service if I want to, or they would terminate it. And I think I reached out to Avila around the 16th of Jan, and their SEM was starting on 20th Jan, but they said, we're going to give you an extra week to figure out your financial documents, loan letter, and stuff like that. Bank letter, my bad. So they had that window open till 25th. And then once my service was transferred, everything was smooth. So my transfer service date was like about, I think, 10 days after I discovered that I have to transfer out. But yeah, I got my admit literally 2 days after I applied. So I think I applied on 15th, and by 17th, I knew I would be transferring out to Avila. And actually, a big thanks to Go Elite as well, because Avila is so less known right now. I didn't really even know it existed. A lot of, there's very little discourse online about the university. Not many people have attended because, of course, it's a fairly new place. But yeah, I spoke to Charlotte and they said, hey, we have this university and we can work with them to expedite your process. So that happened as well. I think they were even more fast because Go Elite stepped in and said, we want to expedite the process. So yeah, that really helped as well.
mhm. Thank you so much for your kind words. So I think this situation is quite common actually for
Mhm.
all of the day one CPT students, not just from Trine universities, but sometimes especially from bigger institutions, they run into situations that they cannot get a hold of their contacts and then
Mhm.
result in delays. So
Mhm.
when you were facing, the situation, what did you have in mind? What you were going to do? What do you wanted to do to resolve this?
Yeah, so I was worried because, a lot of universities, I think the second closest with Avila was Ottawa University because that's in Arizona as well. But I think, they wouldn't transfer credits. So I just felt I've spent 2 years earning an MBA at Trine. It just doesn't make sense for me to start over from scratch all over again. So, of course, the first priority was to find a suitable university. Or if not, if they did terminate my CBIS, I would have to leave the country and re enter. So it would just, especially considering the immigration environment we have today, it would just get really, really tough. And a good thing with Avila is, they said you can just I hardly had a big gap between my CPT authorization. Like probably 5 to 6 days, but they were really good. I think my new CPT already started with Avila on Jan 28th.
Mm,
So it was really smooth. So I was just worried about what are my options at this point, right? Because I spent 3, 4 days trying to argue with Trine, saying that, hey, this was not okay because the particular course. See, I've been at Trine for 3 semesters, so I know
mm,
how a lot of these seated class stuff works, right? Usually the professor does prompt the students that, hey, this weekend we have a class or whatever, but the course that I was enrolled in for this semester, the professor hasn't posted a single note anywhere saying, you have to attend the class or whatever. So I was a little distraught. I was caught. Like, of course, at the end of the day, it is my responsibility to figure out when the seated class is. But I did rely on the professor to say, hey, this is when it is. That's one thing. And all of this could have been avoided if, my academic advisor just reached out to me as soon as I missed the seated class and said, hey, you missed this class, so you can't continue in this course. So let's just put you in a different course before
right.
the add or drop, right? But I was only informed after the add or drop deadline.
Mm.
So it felt like a little, I got a little annoyed because they had 2, 3 days before which they could have informed me. And usually that's what
Oh,
happens, right? Yeah. So I got
so
angry.
what happened? Sorry if I cut you
Yeah.
off. So what happened was, even though you missed that residency, you were still
Yes.
in the add and drop window, meaning that you can drop
Correct.
that course and choose a
Yes.
new course that have a later
Yes.
residency that maybe you can make
Exactly.
over.
Exactly.
Okay.
But in fact, my DSO did reach out to my academic advisor at that moment. So the DSO realized immediately, right, that this student has missed her class, but she's still within the arrow drop deadline. So maybe we can move her around. So he actually prompted my academic advisor. In fact, I had proof because I wrote to my DSO and said, listen, I've done my job. Here is a screenshot of me texting your academic advisor that can you please move this person around? But, my academic advisor didn't reach out to me. So I was just really angry. I did escalate this whole thing to the dean of academics and all those people. But ultimately, they were just, it's the student's responsibility. We can't do anything. So it was very unfortunate.
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry to hear that. So, did you have
Yeah.
any makeover? I assume no, but did you
Yeah.
know anything about makeover? Maybe that if somebody previously missed a class, that they can maybe make over for it?
Yeah, so I was told that I could submit like an extreme circumstances request, which is,
Mm,
if suppose you have like an important surgery or like stuff like that, right? Or if you've
yeah.
had like flight cancellations. I literally live 10 minutes away from the campus, so I didn't have any sort of extreme circumstances. So I was just honest and said, hey, this just happened because the professor didn't do a great job at informing the people. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and then credits to you. I think you handled that situation very effectively and fast. And then when you were talking, I was amazed by how educated you are. I was wondering where you get those information from, because you mentioned that if I'm going to lose my CVIS, then I'm going to leave the country and reactivate the CVIS. So you knows the in and
yeah.
out of everything.
Yeah, I mean, mostly Chat GPT.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Uh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what I do in a crisis, just read up whatever I can. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. Sometimes students run into situations like this and then they will panic a little bit. But it just from your case,
Yeah.
I was thinking, crisis management is really important that way. And then I wanted to pivot back to Avila a little bit. I know you're local, you're in the area, and then
Mhm,
you haven't gone to your residency. Uh,
mhm.
but and you talked about application stage and getting admissions and then how responsible they are. Did you have taken maybe some of the online classes or have already been doing some of the assignments now, or you haven't started?
Right. So I am currently in term one of my semester, but both my courses are for term two. So right now I'm
Mm,
just doing their internship course.
mm,
The professors are extremely, I think, like, I think I was in one class for about 2 weeks, and then they said, "Hey," because I did want to graduate a little earlier, I
mm.
had to sit down with the academics department and figure out my schedule to say, let's take the course in term 2 instead of term 1. So they moved that. But for the 2 weeks that I was in that class, I feel like compared to Trine, I mean, that is the only yardstick I have.
Yeah, sure.
Trine never had any, online classes. So it was just submit assignment and show up at class once a semester. That's all, right?
Right,
But I realized I think Avila has bi-weekly Zoom calls that happens
right.
at the same time. So everybody needs to log in and communicate with the professor. So in case of an RFP at some point later, I can always show those snippets and say, hey, I've attended classes. So that's a good advantage. I feel just having link to the professor to the rest of the class and everybody switches on their camera and does contribute to the class. So it does feel like a real school setting compared to Trine. Trine felt a little makeshift. So that's what I would like to say. Assignments are fairly straightforward. I think Trine had a more severe AI plagiarism check on their
Mm,
assignments. I think Avila is a little more lenient. I don't think they really do enforce any AI or plagiarism checks on students from
right.
what I've seen so far. So they're easier to get by compared to Trine. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, yeah, that's great information. And then I'm glad that you mentioned the proof of attendance. I think that is also very important,
Yeah. Hmm.
especially when you maybe go to a Zoom class, take
Hmm.
screenshot of your attendance, and then
Hmm.
you'll have the dates, and then you'll
Hmm.
be with the class. And then
Yeah.
people don't realize how important it is later on if they
Yeah.
get an RFE, they can submit
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
So that's you're doing the right thing. So I think you're on the right track.
Mhm.
With Avila, we definitely wanted to hear more from you. So maybe in the future, if
Mhm.
we do go to the campus, we do wanted to
Mhm.
maybe sit down with you and then talk more. I know you haven't gone to the campus yet, so
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
by then I'll reach out to you back again to see, hey, Anaya, what do you think about the campus? And then what's
Yeah.
the difference between Avila and Trine? And then maybe we can talk more about it. But for today,
Mhm.
since you haven't gone to the campus yet,
Mhm.
I wanted to focus on maybe your previous experiences also a little bit to kind of get a picture of to help the other students as well. So
Mhm.
um, you mentioned that back then when you were finishing up your OPT, your employer recommended day one CPT. Was that the first time that you learned about CPT, day one CPT?
Yeah, that was the first time. So I was at this employer called Nationwide, the insurance company.
Mm,
And the problem was, like most of the international students are just in their technical division, but it's such a huge insurance company. So I just don't think they saw the benefit of getting e-verified, although it's hardly like a big sort of process. And it's a really old company, like it's 100 years old. And I think getting e-verified meant they have to show like the tax documents from 100 years ago every time they've hired internationals, all of that stuff. I don't think they wanted to get into any of that. So there was a person in my org who was sort of helping international students sort of navigate this immigration system, and I had a bunch of like teammates who were doing the same as well. I actually had a teammate who was at Trine Detroit, and that's when I first learned. And although it was really sad, I could never avail my STEM OPT. That's 2 years gone.
yeah,
Yeah, but I didn't have a choice then because the job market was really bad. I was
right.
just not at the right sort of I just couldn't switch jobs at that moment. And I was freshly out of college. It would just really look bad on my resume if I've just moved in jobs, like with
Yeah.
like a 6 months difference. So yeah, it was the only way out, honestly. So yeah, I just went for it. That was the first time I was hearing about it. And I did talk to people at Go Elite, and so they sort of explained to me that, hey, this is normal. And so I've been through this whole process once, right? Like I've gotten my CVS transferred from CMU to Trine. So I just sort of have like an idea of how this works.
So you were in CMU. I assume that you moved to Arizona because of the job.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
When you were in Trine in Phoenix,
Uh-huh.
can you tell me a little bit about your classmates? Is everybody
Mhm.
majorly from Arizona, or do you see a lot of people traveling from other states?
No, I see a lot of movement from California, especially California, Texas, mostly West Coast. Out of like a class of 50, 60 students, I think two people would be from Arizona.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, people always travel, people always flew in. So, not many people from Arizona itself. Also, I think sort of the international crowd in Arizona is a little lesser compared to like, Bay Area or like LA and stuff like that. So I kind of get it why people would drive or like fly in. Seattle, California, Texas, basically everything around Arizona.
The reason why I asked you why you moved to Phoenix is because I
Mhm.
feel like there's not enough students locally in Arizona.
Mhm.
So I was just
Mhm.
wondering where everybody kind of went. And I also knew that Arizona was a big college state. So a lot of Indian students
Yeah.
and Chinese students would go to Arizona for school. But
Yeah.
then I assume that they will later on
They
go
move
to
out
another
of
state.
Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that makes sense. There's not like a lot of so even nationwide, I was fully remote.
Mm.
But I wanted to stay. We have a campus. We had a campus. I'm not with Nationwide anymore, but like we had a campus very close to Phoenix at Scottsdale, and I was just like, in the future, if I do get like an H1B, I have to be in an area where there is an office. So I just like had like a bit of foresight and moved after college. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Are you joining the H1B lottery this year?
Yeah, I am actually. I'm a little like tense. Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, it's about to begin very, very
Open.
soon, and fingers
Yeah.
crossed. Hope you get
Fingers
selected.
crossed.
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
then
God.
it's been a pleasure speaking with you, and I learned a lot, especially how you know the advantages of going to Avila, but also as like a comparison
Personal
of what
experience.
students
Yeah.
should